Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
There's a common misconception out there that grief is supposed to be this one sort of definable emotion that you can quantify and sort of understand. But in reality, what grief is, especially when it comes down to the loss of a loved one, is basically every emotion hitting you in the face as frenetically and insanely as humanly possible. And you know what? If you are within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with, once again, as always, my name is Dave Voigt. I am your host for this podcast, where we talk to a wide range of various entertainment industry professionals and not only pick their brain about current projects, but how they got into the business, life in general, really. It's a fun ride, and as always, if you want to know more, please don't hesitate to subscribe over on Spotify, over on Apple Podcasts, and as always, you can find the entire archive over on YouTube at our YouTube channel. And please don't forget to follow us on social media as well. It's a big thing. You can follow us at In the Seats and at In It's Podcast 1 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And finally, and most importantly, please don't forget to visit us over at intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest movie news and reviews from festival coverage and upcoming events and, well, across the globe, really. We try to cover cinema as completely as humanly possible, which is why it's kind of fitting that for today's episode, we are talking about the film Koko-Di Koko, which is, well, it's a trip, to be sure, from writer-director Johannes Nyholm. It is, it's in the wake of losing a child, and a couple goes on a road trip to try to sort of find their way back to sort of being normal again after this horrible tragedy. But they run into this insane cast of characters, which sends them down a rabbit hole of completely terrifying moments, but ones that also get into a little bit of slapstick and get into a little bit of humor. It's one of those movies that has to be seen to believe. It's really an assault on the senses as it tries to sort of convey the frenetic madness that dealing with grief in one's life can sort of bring on you. And it's a fascinating film, and it's a fantastic film. But when I talked to Johannes, we talked about the film, we talked about the inspiration, and just sort of the kind of films that he likes to make, and just what sort of gets him going as a filmmaker. And because I'm going to look forward to seeing more from this guy, because I think he's a real talent that we all should be looking forward to in the near future. But enough of me blabbering. Let's cut to me blabbering with Johannes. All right, I will see you soon.
Hello.
Hey, Johannes, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, I mean, obviously, first off, congratulations on the movie. I absolutely loved it. And I mean, I think the thing that really struck me was not just sort of the depth of the grief and the emotion, but how it's balanced with this real sort of wistful tone. Can you walk me through sort of the origins of the story?
Yeah, I mean, the origin is a feeling of loss that I had when I wrote it, and it was kind of a really tough part, a tough situation in my life back then, and I had this idea of kind of trying to create a universe, like a limbo universe, where this feeling, this notion of loss is everything that exists. So I wanted the whole film to be to have this feeling immanent in it in a way. And I want to make a film that wasn't supposed to be like a traditional film structure where you move from this to that and the character learn in the way and all that. So I wanted you to be inside this feeling the entire movie.
Well, I mean, it works so well because, I mean, there is always the misconception for people, like from people on the outside who may have not experienced grief, that grief is supposed to be one way and this is how it's supposed to be. But in reality, grief is sort of all different things going on at the same time. Like, grief is an assault on the senses. And I mean, that's something that, at least from my perspective as a fan, I don't think I could ever see brought on the screen in sort of this really sort of exceptional and kind of like entertainingly chaotic way, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, I was really inspired by dreams.
Yeah.
The dreams I had. I mean, it all kind of came from a dream. The core of the story, it came from a dream, and that structure, this repeating structure, it also came from this dream that you probably experienced a lot of times. You're trying to get away from something, running away, but you end up in the same position again, over and over again.
Is that where the song comes into play too? Because there is a rhythmic sense to it all. Yeah,
I mean, the song came later, but I wanted this song to have the same narrative structure, like this repeating structure, like a song that goes on forever and you can't really get rid of it. And it's played with a music box that you just kind of twirl around and around and around, and you're not getting anywhere, so to speak.
When you're putting something like this together, like, it's always important to find the right actors and to find people who are sort of in tune with your vision. Can you walk me through sort of that entire process? Because I got to imagine, I mean, obviously it's your first feature, correct?
It's the second that's finished, that I started one before.
But I mean, again, it's one of those things where you really want to find people who are sort of in tune with the kind of story that you want to tell, and that's not always the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I went a lot by intuition there. Actually, I didn't. The main characters, I never casted them in a way. I just tried some scenes with them. I knew them a little bit before personally, or actually a friend of mine had worked with both of them in a short film, and I think they had this fantastic energy both between them and by themselves. And I just asked them if they wanted to test some scenes. We went around, drove around in the car, and did some of the dialogue from the film. And it was important for me that they were really into just going 100%. I mean, I think they hadn't so much film experience before. They've been more on stage, theater actors. But I directly felt that they really, really, really wanted to do this. And I saw that they had that energy. And so, I mean, I gave them the roles without testing anyone else, without trying anyone else.
How precious are you to sort of the words on the page? Because there were a lot of moments, especially between those two, that it felt almost improvisational at times, where there really was that kind of kinetic energy. Like, for you, when you're trying to tell specifically this story, is it about the words on the page, or do you have to sort of let the actors go in case they come up with something really fantastic?
Yeah, I mean, there was in most parts the dialogue was written more or less, but then we improvised a lot around that, and sometimes we repeated a scene many times and kind of tweaked the dialogue. But there are especially some scenes in the car where we took scene after scene after scene, and the improvisation changed the script quite a bit.
How quick of a shoot was it? Because I mean, I got to imagine that you've got to keep the energy up, particularly for a lot of these scenes.
Yeah. I mean, you can never guess how long this took. I mean, first it started off as a short film, actually,
Right.
that we shot a long time ago. It was, I mean, almost 10 years ago.
Oh wow, okay.
We hadn't any money to make a feature, and we hadn't any time either. So in the beginning, it's just the woods, what's happening in the forest.
Yeah.
That shot, and I mean, we shot that for 20 days. It rained every day, and so even though it's exteriors, so it was a nightmare to work it out how we should shoot it. But that took 20 days. But after that, we've been continuous shooting, a week here and a week there, for a long time. And as I said, I made another feature in between. But altogether, maybe it's 40 days or something like that.
Okay.
But
All
over a
right.
period of 8 years.
Well, it takes a village, doesn't it? Even if it takes 8 years, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, something else that really struck me about the film was the moments that, and I mean, I don't know if this is animation or if you're just shooting hand puppets sort of against like a bed sheet against the screen. How did you sort of create that effect?
Yeah, it is that. It's very analog. But it's live action. It's just the shadows that puppets cast on a semi-transparent paper. It's a very, very, very old technique. It's like it's many thousands years older than a movie camera. So I mean, I wanted this timeless feeling of the story as well.
Because I mean, it really looked like $1 million, and I mean, it really caught me off guard because, like I said earlier, it created this sort of wistful sense of like borderline hopefulness inside of this sort of cacophony of grief that these characters are in, and it really sort of was a nice counterbalance to the mood.
I think that part is needed for many reasons. Partly because the film otherwise would be too cruel.
Yeah,
it's very cruel and very harsh, and I wanted a more abstract layer. I wanted people to feel a little bit, what do you say, like somewhat like a pacifier for the audience, like something that could help them go to sleep afterwards. Right. Otherwise, it would be too cruel. But
how,
also,
yeah. How has the whole sort of festival run been for you as this has been getting out to more and more audiences?
I mean, this COVID thing has affected a little bit now. Yeah. The last half year, the idea was to screen it in the States a year ago, almost, I think, in the beginning. But then we had to postpone, and then COVID came, and then, I mean, it's not even running in theaters now, so it's just streamed, which I think it's a shame. But when we had the theatrical run, it was fantastic to go around with the film, because people get so emotionally involved in it. Either they can't stand it, they think it's horrible and horrific and cruel, I guess. But other people take it very, very personal, and can see their own life in it, and they get really emotional by it. So I think it's very much a film that you either love or hate.
And, you know, but I mean, I loved it because I did get to see it here in Toronto when it played, and it absolutely blew me away, because I think, and I mean, I agree with you about it being a little disappointed about it not getting a theatrical run right now, just because of the world, because it really does sort of manage to envelop you in this sort of experience where you don't necessarily know which way is up. And that's kind of the whole embodiment of grief.
Yeah. I think that's really what I would like to achieve, this kind of physical sensation.
Yeah.
Not an abstract feeling at all, but like a physical sensation of grief, how it can affect your body physically, like having your intestines pulled out in a way. So I want that feeling to get through to the audience. But then I also need to comfort them afterwards and say that everything will be okay. That's really important.
Now, for you, Is there a movie or a moment that you can sort of go back to in your life that sort of, flicked the switch and the light bulb in your brain and went, okay, this is what I have to do. These are the story. I have to be a storyteller. Is there like, can you boil it down to one moment, or are there sort of many moments?
I think it's hard to say. I knew when I was a kid, I dressed up as a clown a lot. I don't really know where that came from, but I was very, very fascinated by clowns. So I mean, I often sat in a clown suit, and I can see photos of parties when I was a kid, and I sat in the background like a sad clown, 5 years old, with a kind of red curly hair, and so it looks really tragic, but also kind of nice. I think it was. I've always had this idea of wanting to entertain, trying to entertain people. I think it's been there since the beginning. But then I also like to make people a little bit uncomfortable, I guess, to try to get them a little bit. What do you say? I can't really find the word. I mean, to make people think by themselves in a way, get them off guard a bit.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that movie does that and then some. I think you really sort of encapsulated sort of your life goal as a career storyteller, because this film really does both. And I just to put a bow on this, if money wasn't an object, what's the dream project for you?
I don't know. I mean, I like to think that it's what I'm planning right now. I think that money is, it's just in your mind. That's at least what I try to think like. That it's, I mean, I don't make films for money, and money can't help me making a better film.
Right.
I think I can do whatever I want if I'm just, what do you say, if I don't give up. And the money, it won't help you. Sometimes it will hinder you, or just be an obstacle to make you think less clear, I think.
No, and you know what? I agree with you, because it can be an obstacle, and you can't necessarily think in those terms. But I don't think even at the beginning of this process for you, you may have thought that there would be fans singing Koko-Di Koko da and have it sort of send a little chill down people's spine, but it does. And it's one of those movies that it's not necessarily scary or upsetting, but it really gets under your skin in a way that you don't expect, even long after the movie's done. And I think that's really, when it comes down to it, the power of quality filmmaking. And I just wanted to say thank you again for the time, man. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to talk to you.
Oh, for sure.